friends, welcome back to another episode of Hello Friends. I'm your host Kyle. As always, we're back for season 3, episode 22. We're calling this one Principles because as Irving's character, or I should say Bobby Cannavale's character, states in the beginning of this episode, without principle, well, we invite chaos. So we're not trying to do that. It's a new year. Happy New Year, everybody. The season 3 opener. Super exciting. We've seen Red Wheelbarrow. We've had it teased. We get a full-on Red Wheelbarrow here. If we remember at the season 2 finale last week, Elliot got shot by Tyrell Wellick. He kind of freaked out. He called Angela. He said, I love him. And she's like, I know. But we kind of picked that up where they left off. But before we do that, we do get a great opening scene. Bobby Cannavale's character as Irving, where he's at Red Wheelbarrow Barbecue. He's in line and he's like, he gets his 10th punch and she's like, oh, you get a free milkshake. And he's like, oh, great. And he's like, I'd like chocolate, please. And she's like, well, sir, that's for next time. And he's like, I don't understand. And she's like, well, you get a free milkshake for your next visit. And he's like, but I'm here now. Why can't I just get the milkshake? And I'm like, this is a good point. And she's like, I'm sorry, it just doesn't work like that. She's like, I can either charge you $12.95 for a milkshake, or next time you come, you can redeem it. And he's like, so what constitutes a visit? He's like, do I have to go home? He's like, is it a time thing? He's like, can I just get out of line and get back in? So really cool acting, and brings up a great point, because I would do the same thing. I'm like, I'm already here. Instead of coming back next time. I mean, obviously the idea is that they want you to keep coming so you buy more than just milkshake, because you're not going to go just for a free milkshake. But awesome scene. Bobby Cannavale just immediately larger than life character. He commands the screen, and his acting, he's kind of quirky in this show, but he's such a good actor that he sticks out. I think his character sticks out for sure. So that's great. We then pick up where Elliot was. He's shot. But Bobby Cannavale, actually, you're Irving. I'm sorry, I should actually refer to him as his character's name. He gets a call on his Bluetooth, and this is the call to go basically save Elliot's life. He shows up, he puts his gloves on. He's like, oh, okay. And they do a full sweep, but basically he fixes Elliot up, they take the bullet out, and Elliot ends up with Angela. So there's a cool zoom out scene. We do get also a scene, I should say, in the Washington Township plant. We get a really awesome shot. It's all white aesthetic, looks really cool. But there's a tour going on basically, and it's the rest of the city is going through the brownouts, and then we actually do find out eventually that Angela says the electricity's been out for 6 days. So it really adds an awesome effect to this whole episode, because throughout much of the episode, it's a horror. It's almost like a horror movie, because it's they're using candles and it's dark, and it's there's a whole great sequence later on. I don't want to jump ahead to just yet, but it's like Bobby says, without our principles, we invite chaos. A lot of those principles were in place before the 5-9 hack, so now the 5-9 hack is gone. People don't have access to money anymore unless it's eCoin, and they have monopoly on that. Really cool. We see really a lot of the effects of the 5-9 hack really going into effect here. And again, there's a whole segment about that. So sorry, I feel like I'm kind of jumping everywhere for this one. So Elliot eventually goes home, and his landlord actually comes out. There's a really awesome sequence where he's walking home. All the lights are out. It's dark. It is chaos. It's anarchy. Because there's a great sequence where I know Sam Esmail, not a big fan of Trump. I'm not going to get too into it. I don't want to get too political on the show. But there's a great sequence where Elliot's I tried changing the world, but this isn't what I wanted. He's I invited chaos. He's it's funny because they everything that's happened since the hack now has turned into capitalism, basically, where it's now all the anonymous masks, those are all on sale, and now they're charging cheap e-money for it. And because e-money is the only thing you can use right now, they're oh, only 20 e-coin, and it's so people are using their e-coin to get these masks, and it's they're basically promoting the downfall of society. So it's crazy. I can't properly speak to it really. I just don't want to butcher the meaning of it, but it's a really powerful sequence. So obviously Sam has his own beliefs and ideals, and the show can get very political. But in just an overall sense, it's very, very cool because Elliot, it's like, people are, there's like FEMA tents set up, people can't get enough food. There's like bonfires everywhere. All the lights are out, so it's dark everywhere. It kind of has that crazy feeling where like anything can happen, and people have lost order and they've lost their principles, like Irving says. So now there is chaos, and it's just it's crazy. But eventually we do get a great scene between Elliot and his landlord, and he gets home and his landlord's like, "Hey Elliot," he's like, "by the way," he's like, we got to start getting people to rent here. He's like, "We're all going to be in trouble." He's like, "Let them know utilities are included." Elliot's like, "Dude, I don't know what you're talking about." He's like, "Oh, well, there's someone in your apartment, so like just let them know." And he's like, "Who?" He's like, "I don't know, just someone came up to the apartment," which is kind of weird because you think like, I don't know, maybe he would question, like, "You're not Elliot, so what are you doing here?" They probably think it's a friend or whatever. But Elliot goes up there. We find out it's Darlene, and Darlene's like freaking out. Poor Darlene is like on this just snowball effect where she's just like, she's not doing good. She reveals to Elliot like Cisco's dead, and Elliot is like, he kind of stops in his tracks here, but he's like, "Hey, FBI is listening. FBI is tailing us." And Darlene's like, "Oh, I know. Like, we're screwed." She's like, "Believe me, I know way more than you think I know." So they kind of are on the run there. They actually go out and they said the internet's been out. Like Darlene's like, "I do know one place that we can get internet," because Elliot is like, "Look, they're gonna, stage 2 is like gonna be to blow up all the buildings for the E-Corp recovery centers that we learned about." And Elliot's like, even though that was my plan, he's like, Elliot's like, "I need to stop this from happening." And he's like, "I need to remove the back door." He's like, the hack that we set up to get into, that we had Angela work with, to hack E-Corp, he's like, they're using that so that they can take down those buildings. And she's like, "That's not what that was for." And he's like, "Oh, I know it wasn't that's what it wasn't for." But basically they have a sequence where Darlene brings him to like an underground, like he calls it Capture the Flag, where it's just like a bunch of hackers that like trying to reroute stuff. And I don't know if they're playing like a game or what they're doing, but it's a really, really cool sequence because like the music comes in, and the door opens, and it's like basically like a club. There's like glass floors. It's really, really cool, but it's like the only place that has internet, which is really, really cool because it's like a stark contrast to the rest of the not only the neighborhood but like the city, where it's like there's no streetlights, no one has power, everyone's struggling, and then if you come in here, there's like the secret underground, like a headquarters basically, where everyone's like using all of the bandwidth. So Elliot's like, or Darlene's like, "We can't get on, like this thing's gonna take forever." Elliot's like, "I could just win for them." And then he like tells this dude, he's like, "Why don't you do this?" There's like a whole bunch of code talk. It's a really cool scene. But basically Elliot like ends up winning the game for them. And the guy next to him is like, "Oh man," he's like, "You like, good job. I can't believe you did that in 2 minutes." And he like puts his hand on his shoulder and he's like, "Please stop touching me and leave me alone." It's really funny, but it's like classic Elliot, classic hacker Elliot, I should say. But basically he opens up, he like is removing the back door. Darlene goes to the bathroom, she's freaking out. She's like, I'm seeing Dark Army everywhere." She's like, "They killed Cisco and I'm next." And then basically she comes back with the 2 bodyguards, the Dark Army contacts, and she's like, "Elliot, we gotta go." And he's like, "Hold on, I'm almost done." And he's like, "I'm almost done removing it." And then she's like, "Elliot." And then he looks up and they like pull the plug on his computer, and he's like, "Oh." So that's when they actually get in the cab with Irving, who pulls up because the FBI is like coming after them, and FBI is trying to arrest Elliot and Darlene. But Irving's in the cab. There's a really, really awesome scene, probably my favorite scene of the episode, where Irving's in here and he's like shooting the shit, and he's like, "Oh yeah, gas prices are at a premium." So he's like, these taxis, and he's like, "Do me a favor." He's like, pull up the laptop in the back seat, and he's like, pull up like the registry of motor vehicles, like locate car tool or something. And he's like, "Elliot, let me," he's like, "enter in the license plate from the car behind you." And Elliot's like got it memorized already. And then like Irving presses the OnStar thing, and he's like, "Yeah," he's like, I got a car that's going way too fast in pedestrian area." He's like, "I need you to slow it down." He gives him all the information, and then like as the car is coming up, it's like getting on the tail of the taxi, OnStar like remotes in and like puts the hazard lights on and basically like cuts the gas on that car, which is awesome. He's like, oh, I see the lights now. He's like, thanks so much. And I'm like, wow, that's really cool. I didn't know that was possible, but that's super cool that you can do that. So they get away, and it's a really, really cool following sequence, because for the second half of this episode, or the very like end of that part, the very end of the episode, we get Mr. Robot instead of Elliot. And so, as we know, Mr. Robot and Elliot are the same person, just different personalities, which is a big part of the show. But Irving shows up. Eventually, they show up in like a basement with Irving shows up, and he's like, "I don't understand. You didn't want to do this before. What's the big idea now?" And Angela's like, "Don't worry about it. Like we talked through it." So Angela and Mr. Robot show up there again. Super cool lighting. They're like down in like almost looks like a dungeon. The lighting is low. Tyrell Wellick is there, and there's like blue lighting above him, and that's really cool. It's like a spotlight, almost on like a stage. And he shows up. He's like, "I'm sorry. You have to understand that like I was like trying to stop whoever got in our way. I was just following orders." And Mr. Robot's like, "It's okay. I get it. Don't worry." But it's cool because then we get Mr. Robot who sits down. We never see Mr. Robot in front of the computer. It's always Elliot. And Mr. Robot is like, "No, it's time to go forward with stage 2. Like, we need to do this plan." And it's just like, oh, shit. Like, they're on it. Like, it seems like Elliot's the good guy. Like, he doesn't want to kill all those people. He doesn't want to save it. He wants to save people. He doesn't want to go forward with the attack. Mr. Robot is like, we got to go through with this, man. We got to work with Dark Army, and we got to like put this plan to action. And we at this point we don't know if Mr. Robot is a good guy or a bad guy. There is a really cool ending sequence too, where they're on the subway, and it switches a little bit. It's Mr. Robot talking to Angela, and he's like, "Angela, right now I do not trust you." But he's like, "How do you know you're talking to me and not Elliot?" And she says like, "You don't look away from me." She's like, "Elliot does." And there's like a brief sequence where it's like Mr. Robot and Angela on the train, and then they cut to Elliot and Angela on the train. He doesn't say anything, and then they go back to Mr. Robot. But it's just funny because like Mr. Robot is in control, where Elliot is always like questioning and paranoid, and it's crazy. There's a few lines in here too where they say, Elliot tells us like, is he still in control? And there's some bigger things they're hinting at, but I didn't write those down word for word. But yeah, it's really cool. Angela does also remind us that we found the beginning. She's like, "Elliot, what if I told you that, there was a way that all of this could like be undone?" And he's like, "What do you mean the hack?" She's like, No, like our parents die, like all of it. And at the very beginning of the episode, the guy who's given the tour in the power plant, he does say, "What if I told you that like there are infinite like universes happening at the same exact time?" And we see actually Master Zhang walk by, like as that's happening. But basically, we know White Rose's whole idea or the project that they're working on. It's like some sort of way to like multiverse, where it's like, okay, well, Elliot's dad died in this universe, but in another universe, maybe he's alive, and same with Angela. So Angela is like, she's drinking that Kool-Aid. She's like really starting to believe. Everything has changed for her. Recently we had the Angela episode where she meets White Rose, and then like, she's like, "Hey, like a locked door stopped you from all these possibilities." And so she is like just going down this path where Angela is like, she believes anything. And she's like, "White Rose is telling me that like we can live in another reality or another universe." And she's like, I think it's possible. But this is still a very vague idea at this point. We don't know what's going on. I don't know if the show ever really answers the question. I think it's kind of left up to the imagination, a lot of it. But we'll see how that goes along, and then I'll see if we can pick up some hints as we go. But really strong episode. White Rose for me for this one, it's got to be Irving. It's got to be Bobby Cannavale. I think he just stole the show. I don't know if we got any scenes for him in season 2. I think he may have shown up once or twice, maybe last season. But this is like his real debut episode, and he just, he's just so good. But I'm a big Bobby Cannavale guy. He's like good in everything, I think. But like his character, he's like seems like a nice normal guy, and he's quirky, but he's like always in control. And we will see different sides of him as the season goes. And one particular episode I'm very excited for, but as of right now, he's in control, but you know that like he can get some stuff done too. You can tell he's like I don't want to say like a head honcho at Dark Army, but he's not just like another thug. Like he knows, he's very smart and he's very conniving, and he knows what to do in this role. And I think he really speaks to like the power of Dark Army, and what they're kind of overall about. So Bobby Cannavale for me is the White Rose, by a mile. First score, this is a really good episode. I'm going to give it a 9.3. It's a really strong opening. There's a couple sequences there where I was like really digging the score and the vibe. Some awesome shots. The whole underground scene, just like everything, like I said before, like it just feels like a horror episode, or like a horror, like chaotic. They do a super good job of like people running around. There's like shopping carts, where they got people with like shit in there. They're running around. The lights are flickering. A lot of the electricity's out. People don't know what to do. Think about it, guys. If you lost electricity for 6 days and you didn't have any way to spend money, or like you had to only use cash, and everything's shutting down, and all the small businesses are shutting down. It's kind of like what we're going through, or what we were going through in 2020. Hopefully things are going to start back to normal soon. But the show is more relevant than ever, I think, nowadays. But it's crazy because the hack really is like changing everything, and like everyone gets along and there's order. But a hack like 5'9", Elliot's like, I tried to take down the biggest conglomerate and start a revolution, but he's like, honestly, I just turned it into chaos. So he's like, this isn't what I wanted. But this is where we kind of start to see the contrasting viewpoints between Elliot and Mr. Robot. And we don't know if Mr. Robot's a good guy. Christian Slater is such a nice dude, and he's such a good actor that like you want to root for him. But like now he still wants to go forward and blow up the buildings and kill a bunch of innocent people, and we think Elliot is the protagonist now. So like, it's going to be interesting to see like how those heads clash there. So, but yeah, overall very strong episode for season 3. All right, guys. Well, that's it. That is another episode of Hello Friends, episode 22. So, thank you guys so much for joining. If you haven't seen the other episodes, go check them out. Like, comment, subscribe. Of course, go check out the other content on the channel. There's only 10 episodes in season 3, so we're back to kind of a shorter season, and then the final season 4 is 13 episodes. But I think the finale is like a 2-parter, so I don't know if I'm going to be doing those in 2 separate episodes or probably 1. So, but yeah, either way, we have like 23 episodes left. So like we're getting there. We still got a ways to go, but it's really fun. And season 3 just has a different tone than season 2 already, and I really like season 2. But season 3, you can tell things are really, really starting to like change, and we're starting to see the ramifications of the 5'9" hack, and we're starting to see that, like, man, F Society, they really are like on the run, and we got FBI involved, Dark Army's involved. F Society's still trying to like plan things out. Trent and Mobley, we know, are alive at the moment. We saw them at the post-credit scene at the end of season 2. So yeah, lots of things are happening, lots of different threads. We know Dom is always on the case, but now Dark Army is like, trying to create different realities, and I think Sam does play with that a little bit later on, so I don't want to spoil anything though. So thank you guys so much. Loving all the kindness and support, and until next time, goodbye, friend.